Hello and welcome to The Explainer. You know, there's an old saying that you can use stones from another mountain to polish your own jade. Today, we're going to do just that. We're going to steal a page from Silicon Valley's playbook to understand how they've turned growth into a science, and more importantly, how you can use those same lessons. All right, let's get into it.
So, let's kick things off with a question that might hit a little close to home. Is your company's growth sputtering? Feeling like you're stuck in neutral? Are the old tricks just not getting the job done anymore? Look, if you're nodding along, you are definitely not alone. The whole economic game is changing right under our noses.
For a long time, business was in what you could call an incremental era. It was kind of like a Wild West land grab. Just tons of new territory, tons of new customers for the taking. But those days are over. We're now deep in the stock era, and this is a whole different beast. It's a red ocean, a zero-sum game where you're not just finding customers. You are fighting tooth and nail for every single one. This is the new reality.
And this is exactly where Silicon Valley's experience becomes so valuable. Because they hit this wall first. And instead of just trying to sell harder, they did something different. They developed a whole new methodology, a systematic, almost scientific way to create sustainable growth. It's not about luck or magic, it's a process you can learn and repeat.
At the heart of this new approach is a concept called product-led growth, or PLG for short. Now, the definition here is absolutely critical. It's all about making your product itself the #1 driver for everything. How you get customers, how you convert them, how you keep them, and even how you get them to use more of your service. In short, your product stops being just the thing you sell, and it becomes how you sell.
And you can really see the difference in this table. It's a total flip of the old model. With traditional sales, you've got these expensive sales teams whining and dining executives. With PLG, the product itself does the heavy lifting by attracting the actual users. They try it, they love it, and they champion it inside their companies. This move totally slashes your acquisition costs and forces you to change what you measure. You become less obsessed with just the initial contract value and way more focused on how many people are actually, truly using your product every day.
Okay, I get it. This all sounds fantastic in theory, but does it actually work? What are the results? Well, let's take a look at the incredible returns companies are seeing with this strategy. Because let's be real, the numbers are what really matters.
Man, this chart says it all. This is the financial power of PLG in one picture. You have a traditional sales-led giant like Salesforce spending almost half of every dollar it makes on sales and marketing. Then you look at a PLG champion like Atlassian, just 16%. Think about that for a second. That is a staggering amount of cash that they're not spending on ads and salespeople.
So what do they do with all that money they save? Well, they plow it right back into making the product better. And this is what creates this beautiful self-sustaining loop, what we call the growth flywheel. You spend less on marketing, which lets you spend more on research and development. That leads to an even better product, which then attracts more users organically, without you having to pay for them. The whole system just feeds itself.
And this flywheel leads to what might be the single most powerful metric in business, net dollar retention, or NDR. 100% NDR means your existing customers, on average, stick around and keep paying you the same amount next year. Anything over 100% is amazing. Atlassian is at 147%. That means if they didn't sign up a single new customer all year, their business would still grow by 47% just from their existing customers upgrading and using more. That is an unbelievable competitive moat. It's the holy grail.
Okay, so we've seen the why and the what. Now for the fun part, the how. How do you actually build one of these growth engines inside your own company? Let's roll up our sleeves and look at the blueprint.
The first thing to know is that this isn't about sitting around waiting for a light bulb moment. It is a highly disciplined, fast-paced process called a growth sprint. Teams work in these really short, intense cycles, maybe 1 or 2 weeks. You plan a bunch of small experiments, you execute them, and then you immediately review the data to see what you learned. It's this constant cycle of learning and iterating that makes the whole thing work.
And who's doing all this sprinting? It's not some giant bloated department. The core unit is a small, lean, cross-functional team called a pod. You've got a growth product manager steering the ship, engineers to build the experiments, a designer to make sure it's a great experience, and a data analyst who's measuring absolutely everything. That's it. They're a self-contained unit built for speed.
But it's not just about job titles. It's really about the mindset. The people who thrive in these roles are wired a certain way.
They're incredibly curious, almost pathologically so. They're obsessed with data and laser-focused on hitting goals. And maybe most importantly, they have to be okay with failure. In fact, they have to embrace it. Because you're going to run a lot of experiments that don't work. And that's not a failure, that's just learning.
So we've got the what and the how. But the world doesn't stand still. So let's talk about what's next for growth. And maybe even more importantly, some of the major traps and pitfalls you absolutely have to avoid.
Going viral isn't just about pure luck. Let's take the AI company HeyGen. You might have seen that wild video of Taylor Swift speaking perfect Mandarin. It was everywhere. But it wasn't just a random stunt. It was a perfect demonstration of their core product, AI-powered video translation. The thing that went viral was also the ultimate product demo. That's the key. The buzz was tied directly to the value they provide. That is genius-level growth strategy.
Now let's look at the dark side, a real cautionary tale. Pricing is one of your most powerful levers for growth, but it's also incredibly dangerous. When Zendesk suddenly jacked up its prices by as much as 3 times, their users revolted. I mean, it was an immediate backlash. Searches for Zendesk alternatives went through the roof basically overnight. They essentially created a market for their own competitors, a total disaster.
So, here's a final little checklist of traps to keep an eye on. First, don't just blindly chase the hot new marketing channel of the month. Make sure it actually fits your product. Second, don't become so obsessed with pure PLG that you refuse to add a sales team when you need one for bigger deals. And third, the AI hype is cooling down. Just slapping AI powered on your website isn't a growth strategy anymore. You have to deliver real, tangible value.
And that really brings us to our final question. The big one everyone is thinking about right now. AI is obviously an incredibly powerful tool. It can accelerate everything we've talked about. But as that initial wow factor wears off, we have to ask ourselves, is AI a true shortcut to sustainable growth? Or is it the next big trap, a shiny object that distracts us from what really matters, solving real problems for real customers? How we answer that question is going to define the winners and losers